Hello everyone, awesome to have you here. Andrew just joined us. I was going to say it's me and a chair, but Andrew is here, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Andrew, what are we doing today?
Well, I believe you're going to be talking about TypeScript, and I might do a little bit about Firebase. Is that the idea?
Right, I thought you were doing TypeScript and you were doing Firebase, and I was here just to look pretty. But I'll get started, right? So TypeScript, it's just awesome, and we're going to explain to you why, and we're going to actually show you how you can, from a JavaScript project, you can create a TypeScript project very easily and straightforward without actually changing any code, and then you can
I think
iterate on it.
a lot of people, they hear TypeScript and they think, oh, it's a really complicated, difficult thing, and a lot of jobs advertise it saying we need a TypeScript developer that knows TypeScript. It's really, there's not much to it. It's a couple of concepts. If you've ever looked at a different programming language, say Java or C Sharp, you'll be familiar with kind of setting types for variables. That's all it really does at its core, is it brings that capability of saying this is a string, this is an integer, into the JavaScript landscape. You can still write pure JavaScript all the way through it if you want. Obviously, you're missing out on some of the compiler benefits and sort of the pre-compiler benefits. But yeah, it's not scary is the point I want to get across. And people don't get too het up on it. Looking for a TypeScript developer, it's not too hard to get familiar with TypeScript.
And the benefits are awesome. So we're gonna show this to you. So let's start out. I'll do the easy bit, and you can do the hard bit. So the easy bit is I'm gonna make a file. Let's just call it index.js. Right. Let's just make a JavaScript file, and let's just get something working. And so Andrew, what can we put in this JavaScript file? What are you thinking?
We're just going to write a JavaScript file. We're not going to put any HTML in there. We're just going to run some JavaScript.
Yeah, just run something on Node. Keep it really simple. What can we do?
So, well, let's start with a variable. Should we have a variable name? We could say name is Eddie. How about that? And then we could just log that out, I guess, to start with. You could say console log hello and plus name. I won't even use the ES6 backticks for the moment. You can just start with something simple like that, right?
Sounds good. So if we just run that, make sure it works. So node index.js, nothing worked.
Well, we need to save it first. Try that now.
Oh yeah, didn't save it. No, I was just testing you're awake. Right, okay. That works.
So
we need a bit of space in there.
Space in there, yeah.
Okay.
But that's where the backtick is useful, so you don't forget your status. But then we could do something else in here with JavaScript, couldn't we? We could add something in here like, I don't know, do a loop for...
Anyone watching, if you have any questions, do jump into the chat. Say hello, ask any questions, and we're going to show you how to take a JavaScript project into a TypeScript project without actually changing any of your code, and then how you can, if you do change some of your code, you start getting more of the benefits.
What's going to happen now?
Okay, have you saved it this time?
I have hit save. What's going to happen?
Okay, hello 9.
So we've set name to be a string, and all of a sudden it's now a number.
Yeah, it's JavaScript, right? It's a bit confusing. Yeah, it is. Okay, so let's bring in TypeScript and let's see what awesomeness we can bring. So first things first, we need to create this into npm kind of projects, npm init -y, because I want all the default npm.
Yeah, we're not doing anything special here. Yeah. If you weren't to do the -y, it'll ask you questions about sort of name of the project and so forth.
Hazing sneaking on their phone while in a meeting.
Don't get in trouble. We need to say now we don't take any responsibility from dragging you away from your meeting. Where's the caveat? There's some legal notes we need to say there. Cool. No, welcome.
So now we've got an npm package.json. We'll do npm install TypeScript. I'll just I can't spell save. I'll just save it. There we go. Well, I've got an error.
Well, hopefully. Oh, have you installed TypeScript?
I did, and that failed. Did I spell TypeScript wrong? Looks right. Oh, it's because I called the project TypeScript. Yes, yeah, if you see, it doesn't work because I've got it the same. So I can rename this to not be TypeScript example or something.
Yeah, just example.
It can be 2 words, right? No, it can't.
Yeah. do an underscore or a hyphen normally.
There we go. So now if I install TypeScript this time, it has worked. Okay, brilliant. So we've got some node modules. We've got TypeScript installed. So now if I run the project again, as you'll see, nothing will change. Right? We still got hello 9, still works the same way. So the next step we'll do, shall we convert the, actually let's do the node.js command maybe in the package, right? So let's have a look. What's this debug? No, go away. So we have scripts test. Let's do start, and we'll do the npm, the command that I'm running at the moment, and you can see us update it. So node index.js, and we're going to turn this into a TypeScript file. So if I just do npm run, get an error. What have I done wrong? Oh, npm start,
No.
not npm. Ignore me. Npm start. Hello 9. It works. We're good. And so let's convert this JavaScript file to a TypeScript file. Just, let's just rename it. Right, Andrew?
Yeah, let's do that. What
Let's
happens?
just change that. So now it's a TS file. I need to now update this command to be npx. I don't even need npx, do I? Because I'm inside the package JSON.
You're inside. Yeah, you can just do TSC. Yeah.
TSC, and then just the file, which is index.ts.
Yeah.
And save that. But before I run it, let's go have a look at this file. I think there's some...
Yeah, it's got a few little underlines in there, isn't it? It's suddenly getting a bit upset about something.
Exactly.
Do you want to hover over one of those and see what it says?
Cannot assign to name because it's a constant. And also it will be a string, but down here it's an integer. So maybe we should start updating some of these. Or if we var, probably do that as a let.
Yeah, let that allow you to reassign it.
Cannot redeclare block scope. Yes, because we've got name down here as well. Let me just...
So now it's going to get upset.
Yes, so name automatically becomes a string. We haven't said string, but it already becomes a string, and it's already noticing that it's not happy, right? Things are wrong. We started off with a string, we're going to an integer. Let me...
So the first thing that TypeScript does when you create a variable is look to see the type of variable you first assigned to it. So if you didn't assign it to anything, it was effectively null, then it wouldn't have a type. You would have to specify the type where you create the variable. But when you're creating it on a single line, it does auto detect it. Now, there are rules you can set up. We might touch on that later that will allow you to enforce that you must always specify the type. You can't just infer it. But for the moment, we'll go with the inferred types.
Yes, if we go by the inference, we don't have to specify the type. We're going to keep it as simple as possible, and we're not going to put any rules in to say that it's strict. So if I delete that, just make it simpler for a second. Why is it still not like that? What am I missing? Cannot redeclare block scope variable name.
It's probably on line 4. It's having issues. Comment out lines 3 to 5. Let's just make it easy for the minute.
Okay, I'm still not happy with that, which is very weird.
No, well, now it's not happy because it should be a const because you're not redeclaring it.
Oh, yes, true. Yeah. Oh, I can't spell const.
Oh, that's interesting. Why it's still unhappy now.
Block scope. Interesting. I haven't seen that before. Well, I have seen it before, but when it's made sense, name was also declared here. His VS Code got itself in a bit of a mess. Bad example. Let's just, if I rename it to say first name. Yeah, okay, it was getting itself into a bit of a mess. And if I go first name down here, okay, that's fine. VS Code got itself in a bit of a mess. That's fine. Haven't seen that before.
That's what you get for having a free IDE, I suppose.
No, come on, VS Code is awesome. You can't slag it off. If I put this back to what it was and do first name here, it should now say, yeah, cannot assign first name because it's a constant. So if I make this back to being a let so we can reassign it, it's now happy. It's fine. But it's going to say, oh, we need to define I, right? So if we say...
Just make it let. If you do let I equals 0 in the for loop, you don't have to put it there.
Nice. Good call. Okay. So now we've got a let there to be a bit more specific. It's now going to say number is not assignable to a string. It's going to show us that we can't suddenly reassign variables to different types, which is really important. I really hate functions that return different types. So if you're always expecting a name, then you can deal with it in your code, in your HTML, wherever you're using it. But whereas if you sometimes get a name or a string and sometimes you get a number or an age or something, then it's really, really confusing how to work with that. And that's how bugs get created. So to avoid bugs, TypeScript is really useful. So we have made some minor changes to our project. We put a let here, we put a let here, and then obviously we've got a problem here. So what options could we do here? So this obviously doesn't work. We're trying to overwrite a string with a number. So here we could create a new variable. We could say, I don't know, age or something. Let age equals, say, start off at 0. And then this could be age. And therefore, we can always add it on to the end. If I can type.
You might want a space again.
Yeah, and there are things we can do, like Andrew said. We could do something like this to make it a lot easier, which is nicer to read and easier. What's it called, Andrew? I forget what it's called.
Oh,
Now
you're jumping. I can't. There is a name. I can't remember, but yeah, it's a way of templating, effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got a name. I can't remember.
From ES6. I can't remember the name either. Don't worry.
Yeah, we use it all the time. We don't know what it's called.
Yeah, it's just using backticks rather than single quotes, which is nice because it means inside there you can put your single quotes in the string now as well. You're not restricted what you put inside.
That is true, yes.
But also, yeah, it's a bit more efficient than having all the pluses. From a compiler perspective, it's quicker. But obviously, if you were to convert this to ES5, which we'll see in a moment, it will strip all of that out.
So now we've got, this is just going to loop round up till 9, not including 10. And then it's going to set it to age, and then it's going to put age here. I do see, thank you, Julia. Template literals. I knew I had literals in it or something like that. I was thinking of something. That's awesome. Thank you. So you were all always still learning. Right. So we've gone from a JavaScript file to a TypeScript file with some minor changes. Oh, we haven't run it yet. Let's just run it. And the way we run it is I did update the start script. So it's TypeScript index.ts. And if I run that,
so that will compile.
It will compile. Actually, that's true. I should rename that to build.
Run it. If we want to run it, we'd have to install something like TS Node.
That's true, because now it's created this file. This is this JavaScript file. And we don't want to edit this file because it's going to get overwritten all the time. And it's actually done it to ES5, as you can see. And you can actually configure it with tsconfig. You can say what you want it to go to. And that's something.
Do you want to compare the files side by side if you open them both up?
Good idea. So this is the generated one. Split right. And then so there you go. Generated one on the right and the one on the left. I don't know why it's complaining again. Ah, because it's in the other file, that's why. Okay, that's fine. So ignore these ones.
Yeah, you compile as well. With that little switch that Mohammed has just mentioned, you can put a -W there, and then every time you make a change to your TS file, it will recompile into the JS file, which is great if you're developing in the browser. Obviously, we're not using a browser right now. We're developing on the command line, so not so useful perhaps to watch for changes. If you want to install, well, I can probably install it, I think. Install TS Node, so npmi. Maybe not. You haven't given me some terminal.
Do I need to give you some permissions? Let's have a look. Should we give Andrew permissions? Do we trust him? What do I have to do to give you permissions? I don't know. Right click. Make read write. There we go.
Okay. I've requested it. You just have to say yes.
Andrew's requesting permission. Okay, fine. We'll let Andrew in. We trust him, right? But with Mohammed's suggestion, the TSW, will that still not update it for Node as well?
It will watch for changes. So, okay, well, let's do this. Okay, you've got those two files open. Let me make a change. So all right, let me change the file. If I change the package JSON and just add a -W in there.
Okay.
And then if you run npm start again.
Have you saved it this time? You haven't. Always trying to catch me out.
No, I didn't save it.
Okay, I'll save it now. npm start. Right, it's watching. Okay.
So if I go into edit this and I change Eddie to Andrew, for example, and hit save, you should see.
Andrew appear on the right.
Oh, it doesn't update on the screen. I was hoping it might update
No,
on
it's updated
your.
now.
That's right. It's just I can't read what's happening on your vmix share because you've got it at like 2-bit resolution. So I'm
Oh,
having to wait
let
until
me
you.
increase that. I lowered that for when we were doing it with Layal from Lebanon. Let me increase that
I
quickly.
can't read anything that you're sharing to me. It's in real time.
I can send it to you in
There we go.
4K. Here you go.
That's better.
Um, so yeah, so it changed to Andrew. Okay, so that works, but it's not running the code. It's just compile or transpiling,
Just
like you said.
recompiling. Yeah, so we can stop that, and instead you can run ts node, and I think it's just the file name. I'll have to do npx in here. npx ts node, and then so you could change it inside that package JSON in a second. I believe that will then actually run the code for you. So,
I was too busy chatting in the chat. What did I miss? Oh, you've got ts node index, right? Okay, so it ran the code.
yeah, so we could do that in the package JSON rather than using TSC. We could do TS node. I'm not sure if TS node has a watch. I've never tried. Let me leave the W in there. I wonder what happens if you leave that on. But it ignores that switch. I didn't think it knew about that one.
Okay, so
That lets you run it. So you can,
the compile, right?
that will. Ooh, will you see the change to your JS file? I don't think. I think it literally just executes it.
So it must be doing it in memory. So if what was the command you just ran on here?
So down there is on npm start. I've updated the package JSON to have ts node index ts instead, which doesn't seem to be following it. Hang on, npm start. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so it runs and stops. Okay.
So you can change the ts file again if you wanted.
So change Andrew. We'll change. Stephen says we've got a bit of echo. Andrew's not wearing headphones, so I blame him. If I say that to Stephen and hit save, but we got it. It's not listening at the moment, is it? I think he just stopped it.
No, it won't listen to this. So
Okay.
ts node doesn't have a listen feature, so you have to hit npm start again.
Got you, and it updates, and then it's not using this file anymore, so I can delete that file because it must be doing it in memory. Right. Okay. There we go. So outputs it. Okay, that's fine. Right. Okay. What should we do next? We've got a TypeScript file. We've got it. We've shown you how you can kind of do a build. I should add that to the package.json. So I should add a build. Can't spell build. Maybe I should learn how to spell first. Build, and then we can do, what was it? ts index.ts, and that will create the index.js file from that one. And then we've got start, which is going to do it to run it. So if I do not pick somebody else, if I pick Mohammed, is it double M or single M? Single M, and save it. And if I do npm start again, you can see it says, hello, Mohammed, I am 9. Okay, awesome. Run tsw / listen in a terminal and nodemon index.js in another terminal. Yeah, you could. You're right. You could do that. That could work. I wonder how we do it on our other projects. I'm trying to think now because when we set it up on other projects, I forget what we've done.
Yeah, you can run things like nodemon and stuff. There's lots of things you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I tend to worry because I normally am running tests rather than seeing the output in here.
But we can do that. I mean, we can add that now as an example. So it'll be npm install save dev, and we're gonna say do nodemon. Let's give that a go. Okay, so we could do it that we then we could call it start, I don't know, local or something, and then we could have another one which is, we could do start, I don't know, watch, and then in here we do What was the suggestion? TSW. Okay, so we could do TSW index.ts, and can we do and? Oh, or we could do what was that? It was concurrent. We would need, wouldn't we, to run them in parallel?
Yeah, but I thought NodeMon does something else. It's been a while since I've used NodeMon now.
Or I can run them separately in two different terminals, like Mohammed's 9, Stephen's 39. I'm 39 as well. In 2 weeks, I'm old. I was gonna say you could run it. How could you could run it in the background, I suppose, as
I think
well.
you'd have to put NodeMon in front of TS Node.
You reckon you
Because
could combine them into one command?
NodeMon is basically running TSCW, I think, if I remember right. So if you write NodeMon and then TS Node, I think
Oh,
that's all you
really?
need.
Okay, this is interesting. Let's have a look.
Well, NodeMon watches for changes and reruns whatever you're using. So if you're serving something, it would reserve it. So I assume, oh, hello,
Cannot find module.
you've got TS Node twice.
Oh, what did I run? I ran watch. I probably need MPX in front of that, maybe. I don't know. Should have practiced that beforehand. Why have I got TS node twice?
This is where trying things randomly that I haven't used for a long time is never a good move.
Yes, that's fine. We'll keep it simple for now because there's other things that we want to show. We'll figure this out and we'll post an answer. But you can do it in two
You can use
terminals.
something like serve, I think, if you're running a website, but I've never tried doing it on the command line because command line, we always are just running tests on command line. Normally we would be using a browser to view the changes.
NodeMon.
So
I could run two commands, right? We could run. Um, let me see. If we run TS with a W, right, that will watch the TypeScript, and then NodeMon will watch the JS. Will that work? What do you think? I think it's what Mohammed was
well,
suggesting.
well, no, I think you're getting confused. So TSCW watches for changes on a TypeScript file.
Yeah.
NodeMon watches for changes on a TypeScript file. They both do the same thing, but NodeMon normally lets you execute something else into there that will watch for the changes.
Oh, I see. Got you. Okay, my bad.
It's a more advanced version of TSCW. But
Got
as I
you.
said, I've never tried using it on the command line. I've only ever done it in things like a browser situation. So I'm not sure if it would work with TS Node.
Got you. Okay, yeah. I thought TS was to compile it, and then NodeMon would be to run it.
Well, to see what happens, I've not used. It's been a while since I've used NodeMon. Just give it a try without the TSW.
Oh, without the TSW
Yeah, so get rid of the.
on a TS file.
Hang on, let me go and edit it. It's easier than me trying to
Okay,
talk.
go on. Andrew, edit it, and I'll watch the chat. Let's be lots of suggestions in the chat. Stephen says I use NodeMon exec TS node index. Ah, okay. I've got a few suggestions.
Yeah. Okay, so NodeMon doesn't need TS. Oh, it starts TS Node automatically for you. Okay.
Oh, interesting. Smart enough to realize that.
Yeah, I've never paid enough. So there you go. Learning something new ourselves.
Okay, let's just check it works. So if I save something, yeah, okay, output's the output, and if I change this to a 5, let's make Mohammed younger. Okay, so that does work. Nice. So that was just, I didn't see what you ran, by the way. What did you run? Just NodeMon index.ts?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to ditch this one. So that was quite interesting. What have we got in the chat? We've got some discussions, which is good. It's nice to see what other people have used. NodeMon with exec npm start local. Yeah, that probably would work. Stephen saying it's not the most performant. Probably not, especially when it's a small project like this. We don't mind so much. Okay, pretty good. Right. Okay, what we're gonna do next? We did have an agenda. We did have a list.
I was going to say, where's that agenda gone?
We did have some slides with a list of agenda, and I've kind of lost it.
I'll send you the link over.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Andrew sent it. Let's have a look. I can bring it over to here. Here we go. Look, we even had, you know, Code Mortal slides. Oh, that's disappeared now. Wait a second. That's full screen. Here we go. Present. Just one slide. So
So you haven't
benefits of
shown the
using
playground.
TypeScript. Oh yeah, we got to show the playground as well. Yeah, I need to show everyone the playground. I love that playground. See, we jumped ahead. We did convert JavaScript project to TypeScript. Creating, adding types we'll get to. Okay, let's go to the playground from there first. So if we go to TypeScript website, and yes, I accept all cookies, take my PIN code, take my money. And then there's lots of benefits you can use. And again, it does find a lot of bugs beforehand. I don't understand why people wouldn't want to use TypeScript instead of plain JavaScript. I really don't. And if you go to the playground, all the playground's changed. Oh, it's fancier since I last looked. Last time I looked, it was like 2 text areas. So that's quite interesting. And what has it got? So run, it's got the version. Okay, go away, export. Probably really small, and then make it bigger for people. Is that better? Can everyone see? And then...
Yeah, they've got some examples up there as well, don't forget.
Yeah, let's look at a nice example. Okay, hello world. I think that's what we're on now, right? So yeah, you can see what it converts it to, and you can try things out. There was was there a run? Classes. So you have lots of nice examples. I think this is really good. How you'd see a class in TypeScript, how it ends up in JavaScript. And you can do lots of really nice things in TypeScript. Like for example, here they've got name, name, and name, right? But if you've got it coming in as an in the constructor, you can actually remove the class definition, and you can remove the assignment, and then you can just put private or public here, and it automatically does the assignment for you. As you can see, the assignment automatically is happening. So that is really, really nice. It's very tidy and clean, things like that. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy, but just makes it a lot more concise. I think that's just really nice to see. Yes, lots of things. I think they have lots of examples. Generic functions, typings, and you know, async, await. I haven't seen this one before. Let's see how they've done theirs. So yeah, really good. So you can see what happens. Right, okay, next on the slide. Let's have a look. Right, everyone watching, don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and it really helps support the channel. And thanks to everyone who's typing in the chat and giving us tips and suggestions. Don't forget to share all your thoughts and ideas. It's good to see everyone's opinions. It's a lovely thing nicked from Swift. Which part? All of it. So, okay, next thing we want to show is maybe some types, I think it was. Types to variables. So let's have a look. Right. So one of the interesting things about types is, let's say you had 2 files. I'll do it in one file for now, but bear with me. Let's say you had 2 files, and in one file you had, I'll just use an object as an example. I don't know, I'll just call it as an interface for now. And we had, I don't know, user, for example. And then the user had a first name to match above, and we'll say it was a string. This is what you do in TypeScript. So therefore, wherever we're using user, we know what we're expecting, rather than, I don't know, if you, again, in the example that we had on TypeScript, if we had a class, I don't know, members, and we had a constructor that accepted a user, in JavaScript, you would do it more like this. And then you'd be like, oh, user, what do we have? I don't know. User dot, I don't know what we've got. Let's guess. And if someone changes it, you never know. But what is great in TypeScript, if you create like an interface, or there's different ways you can do it, or a type and so on. In this case, it could be in a separate file. It's not necessarily going to be in the same file. I've just got it here for simplicity. Let me move that down. Don't know why I left that in the middle. Then now in user, so if I'm anywhere in the class or anywhere we're using, I can go dot, and oh look, I've got first name. I can straight away see what's available. So if I went last name, TypeScript is automatically going to underline and say that doesn't exist. So it really, really helps. And the only extra work you have to do is maybe do a definition, but it's so worth it because anyone else working somewhere else in the project will know what they're allowed to do, rather than the amount of JavaScript projects that use something like this. It's not underlined. They think it works, and then they're running it, testing it, running it, and it just doesn't work, and they don't understand why. It's hard to debug. So this prevents a lot of silly little mistakes. That's why I really, really like it. Right, so we know we haven't got last name. We know we've only got first name dot. There we go. Okay, although it doesn't actually do anything there.
Just noticed I've been muted for a little while.
Oh,
I was going
sorry,
to say,
Andrew.
what about optional fields on there? What if you had an optional value in your user?
Yeah, good point. So Andrew is absolutely right. What happened if you had age and age was optional? Then you could do a question mark, and then we can say that it's a number. So therefore, age isn't required. It's now an optional property on the object, which again is really useful so people know when they're trying to use it. So if I went to use age, I know that it is optional, and it could potentially be empty. So yeah, that's a good one. What else have we got? Anything else? Before we jump into the REST API, all the hard stuff that Andrew's going to show you. Let me bring up. Where's the slides gone? I lost it now. Don't know where it is. Oh, it's full page over here. Yes. So creating and adding types to variables. I mean, that's pretty much it. You have got generics. So let us know if you want us to go in more details into that. Maybe I can show an example. So say, for example, we didn't know what, I don't know, we had like, I don't know, extra information, and we didn't know what type it was going to be, because it could be, I don't know, a pet object, it could be a work object, it could be various different things. Then you can put in a generic and say, this is of type T. I think I've done that right. Let me check. Is it just like that? I'm trying to remember now. Yes, so it's of type T. Therefore, when you create the user, again, here you'll need to specify the type, but you can say have different types of object. So it's kind of like a loose adapter, I suppose, is in you're not being enforced, but you can do it. You can enforce it to be of type of something else. You could say it needs to extend a certain type. I'm pretty sure it's extend. And therefore you can limit it and keep it a bit more focused. So there are things you can do like that. It is very Java-esque, and you don't have to use all of it. Whereas in Java, yeah, you are more strict in what you can do. Also, what you have to do in Java, you have to define this here as a string, but here it's inferred, unless you change the tsconfig file and make it more specific.
Is it worth showing people a tsconfig file quickly? Install tslint?
Yeah. Do you want to have a go? I'm going to catch up with the chat. I see people have been typing. I think you've got access to most things.
It's my screen. I can do that. Let me check.
What have we got? It's not the most performant. That's what Stephen said. I read that already. The constructor currying stuff. Yeah, stolen. How about reusing extending based interfaces? Yeah, true. So you can basically have a user and a super user, and a super user is a user with some additional properties. True. I really don't like inheritance too much. Implementing an interface, I think, is really important. But extending a class, I don't know, I find people make it a bit, sometimes it's okay to do it once, but I find some people have like a base God class that has everything, and then everything extends that class. So I do prefer injecting it in and using something like composition. But there are times when you do need to use it. You're absolutely right. There are times, and we can do that. We should show that as an example. We should show extending a class, and I can even do something a bit like the adapter pattern, one of my favorites, as an example of how to have different inputs and how to keep it rigid. So if someone wants to add more functionality, say your input is from a REST client and a database, and someone might have a JSON file or CSV file, then how you can just create an adapter and people know what they need to do to be able to make it work. Andrew, let me know if you want me to do that first, or if you want to show the config first.
Yeah. So, well, I'm using TSLint here now. I believe TSLint is actually deprecated. They recommend using
ESLint,
ESLint.
yeah, I saw that. Yeah, ESLints.
TSLint anyway. They're very similar. What you get out of them. But I've installed. Hopefully, I've installed TSLint.
I saw you
Let
install
me just check.
something. Oh, yes, you did. Yeah.
And I hope that's the right version. So I should be able to then run. I think it's npx TSLint init. Yeah. And what that should do,
I think if you want to
if I've got
generate
the
the
right.
config, you need to do something. You need to do an extra flag.
Do I? I thought it was just a. Oh, is it a flag rather than an init? Sorry, it might be
I
that.
can't remember. Yeah, something like that. I think it's full or something. I don't remember. You have to go dash
I thought.
dash full or something. But I used ESLint, so you might have to check the docs.
Yeah, it might be a dot config. I have to specify the file name, maybe.
No, I don't think so.
I can't find module TypeScript. Oh, interesting. Why
Hey
can't it find
Nathan, how you
TypeScript? We've got
doing?
I might have to go and refer to
I'll let
docs.
you play with that. I'll show the extending the classes that Stephen suggested, and I'll do the adapter pattern with interfaces as well. So just to show an example, let me remove the generic so no one gets too confused. I don't think we need that anymore. An example that Stephen was talking about, you might have, say, a class. We've got an interface that's user, so we could have a class. Let's see, what can we call this one? Well, if I remove that interface, actually, let me change this to a class and I'll explain why. So we'll have a class user. Let's get rid of this one. So you've got class user, and you could say members extends user, oh, capital U, and then therefore it's going to complain about the properties. Must contain a supercall. Okay, thank you very much. So this class user has first name and age, but members automatically inherit that because it's extending user. I'm not a big fan of, it's got an S, probably shouldn't have an S on members, be member. So on here, on member, you might have, I don't know, is logged in, for example. And you might say it's a boolean, it equals false, or a boolean type. But the, oh, not equals boolean, what am I talking about? Equals false. But the, I don't have to specify the properties first name and age because they come in automatically from extending. I'm not a too big fan of that. So a good example that I could show you with interfaces is the adapter pattern. So let me delete this and let me just show you an example again. So let's say we want to read a file. Sometimes it's a JSON file, sometimes it's a CSV file, and there needs to be different, I guess, commands or formatting done to it. So what we would do, we have a class, and we might want to say, I don't know, display data. And in this class, display data, we have a function that goes, I don't know, we call it, let's say, I don't know, display. And it does something. And instead of having, I don't know, display, what a lot of people do is display CSV, and it will do something. And then later on, they might have display JSON, and again, they'll do something. And so when you want to use this class, you'll specify if you want a CSV version, JSON version, and then this can kind of keep growing loads. And from JSON, you might have REST, you might have loads of other stuff. So what I want to demonstrate with the adapter pattern and TypeScript and how it works so nicely is you don't really need that. What you can do is just have display. So this class, all it cares about is displaying. And you may think, well, what about other class? How would we manipulate the data for different things? What we'd do is you would create an interface, and we would say, call this, let's say, I don't know, read data, for example. And then in read data, we expect it to have a property or a function that, or a method really in this case, that has, I don't know, we call it run. And then what we can say, we expect run to, oh, it's an interface, no body needed. And run to take no parameters, but to return a string. And so we know whenever we, well, no, we don't know yet because I haven't told it, but whenever we we want to display something, we always get back a string or an object, for example. So we can make that more strict, but I want to keep it simple for now. So then you think, okay, well, in display, how can we do that? Well, we should really inject an adapter, and it needs to be of type data. And the reason for that is in display, we can then go adapter dot run. And we can pass it the data, for example, if we wanted, and then have data going in there. And why is that complaining? Doesn't it type? Oh, doesn't exist. Yeah, it doesn't exist. So I'm trying to use that as an example. Okay, we'll pass in an empty object for now. Just, we can pass in the data that we need, and we should have a type for that as well, but I'm just going to keep it simple for now. But we'll keep it simple for now. So you may think, so whenever I want to display data, I can then, I know I'm always going to get read data. So what we would then do is do something like class, and we could say JSON or read JSON, or whatever we want to call it. And then we need to implement the read data. Because if I do this, actually, as if I was calling this class. Let's have a look. So if I go new display data, and I save that to let display data equal that class, and then we went display data dot display. I do this, it's going to error because it's expecting something of type read data. So let me move this down slightly. So what I need to do is then I need to create, if I pass in this class and say new read JSON, it's going to throw an error and say it's not type of read data. So what I need to do is implement, I can't spell implement, read data. I should really be consistent and make that capital. And then what it's going to say now is going to complain and say my class hasn't got this function. So I'll go, okay, well, if I'll create this method, it's going to accept data, and it's not returning anything. So at the moment it's going to complain and say, etc. What's it saying? Not assignable to the same property base type read data, because I'm not returning anything. So if I returned a number like 1, 2, 3, it's still going to complain that I'm not doing the same. So I need to return a string, and now it's happy. Okay, numbers 1, 2, 3 kind of makes no sense as a string, so I'll change it to ABC. So now it's happy that I've got that. And down here, I renamed this to capital R. So now it's also happy. So you may think, well, okay, what's the benefit of that? The benefit is that this class can be tested individually. This class also can be tested individually. So you can actually create an adapter that is a test adapter. I've seen that happen a lot. So therefore you can test this display data class and not care about the adapter itself, right? So your test adapter just might always return the same string. It will probably look very much like this, because here in read JSON, what you would probably have is load JSON file from disk or something, and then you'd have other steps as well. But all it cares about is it must return a string, because that's what the interface is saying. Later on, we might have another one that is not read JSON. It might be, I don't know, read CSV. And again, we would read the CSV file, use whatever code we wanted. As long as it returned a string, this class would be happy, and this would run and work. And then so that helps. We can test the adapters out individually, and we can test the class that's consuming the adapter individually as well. So later on, we could also then display, instead of read JSON, we could also do read CSV. And that way you again make your business logic focus on what it's meant to do. So the adapters themselves, and actually we would rename this really should be called adapter, is the way it's usually named. So it's usually appended with adapter at the end to know that they are meant to be injected into another class. And I'll just add that onto those as well, so they don't complain. But yeah, it keeps all your business logic focused. The part that's doing something specific, and then something else that's doing something specific, but the same result should come from it as well. And then this one, again, whatever the data is coming from, it will display it in a certain way. Does that make sense, Andrew? Does that make sense to everyone watching? Hopefully it does.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a very basic implementation as such, but I think that's what you want to cover. You don't want to go talking too much about passing objects around and actually ways of displaying things.
Yeah, I thought I'd try and keep it simple onto the TypeScript and the adapter side and the classes, rather than going too much into a real life example. But we can do one in the future if that becomes helpful. That's something we can do, and I can prep something that'll be a bit faster as well.
Yeah, I fixed the linter as well in the background. I
Okay, so show
installed
us.
hyphen rather than tslint. There's too many hyphens going on in the other packages we put in, but it was correct. It is tslint in it to create the JSON file. So you can see in the side you've got a JSON file there now, where you can set up your lint rules, which kind of gives you a very basic way of setting up some standards, right? I mean, at the moment it uses the recommended ones. You've got strict rules, and you can override rules and all sorts to set up how you want your code or a base set of coding standards to work, and throw that through your CI as well. Make sure that the teams work using the same stuff. Probably one of the first things you'll add onto your CI is a lint check, I'm sure.
Yeah, so I love going like strict on this rather than recommended, but sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain because you can't have like nulls, you can't have everything has to have a type. It is really nice. I think it keeps it really clean. Again, reduces even more bugs, but for the extra pain, it might not be the extra worth the extra effort going to strict. Recommended will remove probably 90% of issues, but with a minimal amount of work. So recommended is always a good way to go. Nathan says interfaces seriously baffle me. So that's a good point. I think it's a good thing to talk about actually, because interfaces are so useful. I mean, generics baffled me for years. So until someone described it in a certain way that made sense, and other people were describing it in a very similar sort of way, but just didn't click. So hopefully we'll try and explain interfaces now, and hopefully it will click for you. So an interface is kind of like a class, but you have no, I want to say no code, but that kind of doesn't make sense because obviously the interface is written in code, but you have no body to the method. So in the interface, you'd specify almost the signature, the rules of what you want. So I would expect data to come in as an object or be specific and actually say what the object was. And I expect the run method to return a string. And then when a class implements that interface, it needs to obey all those rules. So it has to obey those rules. That's all an interface does. And then you can use an interface.
You may sometimes also see type used by people. Some places use type. I think interface is the recommended way of generally doing stuff, though. But yeah, type you might see used instead of interface. But they largely, I say largely, there are some subtle differences. They largely do the same thing.
Yeah, with interface, you can implement it via a class, but a type is only
Yeah,
used as a type, whereas interface can be implemented and it can be a type. So down
yeah.
here, when I've got the other class that's expecting an adapter, I've got the interface type here. So any class implementing, because in here, if I put the CSV adapter, then you'll see, well, it should, let me see, display data. One of these should go, the JSON one should go red because it wouldn't be allowed to run because I'm only expecting a CSV. But because I'm expecting different types of adapters, then I actually put the interface because I know every adapter will implement the interface. The class can do more, so I could have read JSON, which is or I know load file or whatever I want, load file. I could have another function. You could add more to that adapter, but when it comes to the class consuming the adapter that's dependent on it, in the interface, we only need to specify the ones that they should all have. So the CSV adapter has run and the JSON adapter also has run. This has load file. This might have a REST call or something. You know, it could have something else because our other class doesn't care about that. So the interface shouldn't have everything on there. It's everything that is required. Hopefully that makes it a bit more sense. If not,
Another thing you can always look at is abstract classes, right? If you read about abstract classes, that'll discuss that concept a bit more as well.
True. For me, abstract classes are a bit like inheritance in that abstract classes are between interfaces and a class. So you can't initiate that class with new and then class. You have to implement it or extend it, I should say. But not only do you have some definitions, but also you can have some functionality. And I think that gets a bit dangerous because then you end up with like a super class or a god class, even if it's an abstract, that everyone just dumps all this logic in. That's why I'm a bit nervous about doing abstract classes and kind of like base classes style. But as long as people are not abusing them, then they're useful and fine. Awesome. Okay. So Andrew has shown the TS lint, which is good, which is important. So we can change some rules if we need to. Right.
We're not going to set up tests at this time, are we?
No,
we'll do tests in a future stream, I think.
Yeah, let us know in the chat now and later what other things you would like to see. So we will do tests in the future. We will do what else are we going to do? We did mention something else.
Firebase generally. We were going to try and see if we could squeeze in a quick Firebase function now just to show a concrete use of TypeScript. I don't know if you want to still try and do that quickly.
Yeah, let's try and do one. We'll do that. If just kind of dip our toes in a few waters, and then we can see what interests people, and we can dig into more details next time in certain areas. So I think that will be good. So what do we do, Andrew? You have got also Firebase functions working locally, I remember as well.
Yeah, let's not try and do that right now.
Isn't that easier? No? Okay. Whatever's easiest.
Well, first of all, we probably need to remove what we've already written in this project. So I'm going to kind of delete all the stuff you've got there.
Okay.
So let's just...
You go ahead. And I can show everyone my new feature that I've got. Look at this. I've got this feature where I can draw on my own screen. And if I want to highlight something, I can do this and go, oh, if you look here, it's a load file and it's very interesting. So I'm very excited about that. Andrew's giggling away. I'm excited. That's cool, no?
Right, npm init. Here we go. Let's create the project again. I should have done -y as well, but you can see the questions it asks you. I'll just hit next to all.
I'm not in the way. Okay, good.
And then first thing you need, which we're going to create a Firebase function. So this is very Firebase specific, but just a useful way of just showing something real. The first thing we have to do is install... I'm just trying to remember the name of the library. It's
Firebase admin.
Firebase tools is the one you want.
Okay.
So install Firebase tools.
Oh, tools, yeah.
Without this, it takes a while longer to create a Firebase function.
Got you.
It also helps us with deployments and so forth.
Sounds good.
Okay, we're also going to want, I should have done it all on one line, we're going to want Firebase functions and Firebase admin. Although, do we need admin?
I think you need admin. No, it depends what we're putting in the code. I'm not sure.
I need it, I can't remember.
I think admin you need if you want to write stuff to the database and so on and read stuff.
Yeah, database you definitely need. I'm not sure if you need it if you want to create a HTTP endpoint.
Let's get it anyway. We can always remove it later.
I spelled Firebase wrong.
Fairbase. Phasebase. Phasebase is quite good. Reminds me of our game we wrote in JavaScript, Phaser. What was our game called?
Phaser, yeah. You're going to bring that up now, are you?
Yeah, we should. Who wants to see a live stream on web game development? We wrote a Space Invaders game in Phaser, and it was with TypeScript, I think. But they do support TypeScript more non-natively now. And it was Warp Blaster, and you went through the screen. But I'm just mentioning that very briefly now to see if people would be interested in a live stream on that.
Yeah, we need to do some more stuff with that. So the first thing you need to normally do with Firebase is log in. I don't know if you're already logged into Firebase.
Oh, I don't know either. I should be, but I might be logged into mine rather than yours.
Yeah, let me have a quick look.
Firebase login, isn't it?
Shows you, okay, it's not a command. Okay.
I think I have Firebase global, so Firebase login. Is that what you want me to do?
Go on then, log in. It should bring up a window. You can log in off the screen anyway. You are logged in, okay.
I'm logged in as me, but we should put it in Code Mortals maybe. Let me log out.
Okay, yeah, you can log in off screen, can't you?
Yeah.
Cool.
It's fine. I can log in over here. Okay. Logged in. We're good.
Cool. All right. So then, first thing you can do is create a function. So you say Firebase in it, and we just want the functions part. We can specify hosting and all sorts of other things. We will use. Did I get as far as I was off screen earlier creating a project? Let me finish creating it.
Oh yes, in Firebase itself.
I can't bring the screen in, but because you're sharing. But basically, in Firebase console, you just create a project, fill out what the name of the project is. I can select an account, hit create project, and in a few seconds it will create a project. So at the moment, if I was to go use an existing project, it will only find ones we've already got. I just wait a second. Should. Okay, now I'm just watching the clock tick round on the other screen. We could have tried creating one from the console, but I'm just not sure what questions it asks on the CLI. I've only ever done the creation as such through the browser. Okay, right. I think it should be there now. So use an existing project. Interesting. Why didn't it ask which one? TypeScript. Do you want to use TS-lint? So yeah, we can say yes. This is why I used TS-lint a minute ago, because that's the default one you get on places like this. Most projects come with TS-lint rather than ES-lint as well. So if you're using Angular
Yeah, I don't
and
think
stuff,
they've moved over yet. I've moved. I think one of my projects over to ESLint. It's very similar.
Install dependencies. Yes, let's install the dependencies. I'm a little confused why it didn't ask me which project I want to use. But never mind, we can add the project in a minute. So what that will have done is create a few Firebase files. We're not going to look at those too much right now, but the main thing it's done is create this functions folder up here with an index file inside it. And that's where we can start writing a function from. I think HTTPS on request, that's pretty much all we need for an API, right? If I remember right. So I
Yeah,
can
I think
basically
so.
uncomment those lines.
Oh, it's not happy about something. Oh, there you go.
And it's pretty much as easy as that to create a function for Firebase, all set up using TypeScript. And you can play around here. This is a good way of just playing around with building an API with pure TypeScript without using Express and the various other libraries that you'll find people use. Because Express, again, is not really set up for TypeScript. It's more set up for people that are using JavaScript with Node. But things like Firebase functions are very geared towards TypeScript by default. So you'll see it's created a TS file. We can run them locally. It should in the package JSON. Where is it? In this package JSON, perhaps. Yeah, it's
Oh, let me
created
follow
a
you.
few.
Sorry, we're not following you.
Are you not
Analyze
following?
share, and let's go to follow. Okay, we're following you now.
Yeah, so there's a package JSON file under that source folder or under that functions folder, which has a few commands in, including ones that do let you run things locally. So you'll see there is an emulator there under serve that lets you run things locally. But for HTTP functions, I don't think actually, it says Firebase emulator. I'm wondering if it's got the full emulator in there now. It might do. It might have changed over. Without having the full emulator run, you can't normally access HTTP functions locally, but I think they might have the full emulator there now based on that command. I won't try that anyway. What I was going to do is just do an npm deploy because it's as simple as
Let's
npx.
get it deployed. Let's show you, and you all hit the API.
So let's see what happens. Go into the functions folder first. Helps. And npm run deploy, I think, is all I need. See what happens.
Oh, error.
Okay.
What we got?
No active project. Yeah, I did wonder what it was doing because it didn't seem to pick up the project. Yeah, so in here, it should normally have the project. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Is it just project?
I can't remember either. I have to look it up. Nathan, that rocket exploding. It does say run this command with the project alias or project ID. So maybe it'll do it for us.
Do that. Actually, you're right. We can do that. We can literally just say, I'll need to put it into the package JSON, only functions and project, I think it is.
What did you call
Which
it?
I call CM. TypeScript functions, I think. Normally, when I was running the command of init on the init, it should have picked up the project and said which project you wanted to do, and it should have stuck that into the Firebase RC. Looks like it found out to type it incorrectly, so it's CM TypeScript functions. Also, we needed to be logged in, which is why he had to log in correctly to do the deployment. So he's logged into an account which has access to this CM or CoModels TypeScript functions project, and it's running a deployment right now.
Oh, why can't we see it? Wait a second, scroll down. There we go. Sorry. Everyone missed it. What Andrew ran was npm run deploy. Now it's deploying it, and it should give us a URL that we can all hit. And what's the code going to do? Let's have a look. It is going to return a response, hello from Firebase, when we hit that. So we'll share a link in the chat so you all can try it as well and show you how easy it is to get up a REST. Well, it's not fully REST yet, but a REST-ish on the way to becoming a RESTful API endpoint.
You'll be able to call it through a browser, but it won't look like JSON yet because we're just returning a string.
Yeah.
We need to be returning an object for it to look like JSON. It's taking a little while, probably because it's the first project. Oh,
yeah,
hang on, I need
to
one. Enable billing on there, don't I, for HTTP?
I think it's only for external HTTP. I don't think it's for hitting it, is it? I can't remember. Anyway, you get like millions of usage. So you never get, but hey, completed. Okay. So URL is this. Let me have a go. Command and click. Open. Oh, it's open on another screen. Let me bring it here. There we go. Really small. So if I make that bigger, hello from Firebase. So it works. So this is a deployed function.
You can copy that URL into YouTube as well, right?
Yeah,
Anyone should.
If you don't believe us, there's the URL. You should get hello Firebase. And so if we make a change, let's make a change. What should we do? Should we add some JSON in there?
Yeah, we can just create an object and send an object back.
Will it automatically JSONify it for us? I can't remember if it will.
I don't know, double quotes.
I don't know. Everyone has their preference. Tabs or spaces?
Tabs. No, spaces, of course.
So save that. We'll do another deployment. Let's have a look.
Hopefully it'll deploy a little bit faster now that the first one's been deployed. That took a little while the first time.
Should be quicker.
Probably your internet's going a bit slow today.
No, it's all good. Sending you HD stuff, sending YouTube HD. All good in the hood.
The thing you might notice as it's deploying, that I'll comment on, is that by default it's deploying to US Central 1. One of the things that I know, certainly in using Firebase or Google GCP functions as well with clients, is they don't like things being outside the UK. So you can specify in the code which region to use as well. It comes at the very top. I think, is it before or after HTTPS? There's a region option, and you can specify in there which region you want to use. I'll have to check what the region name is. I think it's, I'm not going to guess, I think it's Europe West.
Yeah, it's something like Europe West. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, it's deployed it. I'll let Andrew play around. So if I refresh this, we now have some JSON data. So you can use the same URL that was shared in the chat, refresh it, and you get that. And then yes, if you want to do posts and puts and stuff, then you can't use a browser anymore. You need to use something like Postman or something like that.
Yeah, so you can do a get with that. You can see in there the on request. So you could, if you want, do a console log a request. And that will go into Firebase's log. So if I ran a deploy again, this might get upset because I don't think we need to delete, I think, the one that's in the other region. But let's just see what happens. Yeah. We'd like to proceed. Okay, so let's you do that from the command line. So it's noticed that it wasn't US Central 1. We're trying to move it to Europe now. In fact, Europe West 2 is London, so that's a server in London. So it will remove it from US Central 1 and it will redeploy it out to London. And we should be able to see if do you want to use Postman? Have you got Postman installed or something similar? I know you've got something in VS Code normally.
I used to. I think I've reinstalled. I do have Postman. Okay, cool. Nathan says used to use JSON formatter extension on Chrome. Yeah, that's what I use as well.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just delete out my Postman. It's got some of my clients working there. Let me just delete all of those. Okay. Right. Okay, got it. Just paste in the URL.
The URL will change for Europe.
True. Let me see if the old one's still up. It is not up, I don't think. No. It is down. Wait for the new URL.
Being very slow to set these functions up today. Normally it's quite quick. I suppose I don't tend to pay attention because CI normally does it all.
True, but it's deleted. It seems to have deleted it. So now it's going to be creating the new one. You had to change the location, didn't you?
Done.
So I'll paste the new URL in the chat. There we go. So now you can see it's a bit small. Make it a bit bigger.
If you do it as a post, what happens?
And what happens if you do it as a post? Should I post this back? Body in.
Go on then.
Do raw, and it's going to be Java, not JavaScript, JSON. What happened?
The response is down below. There you go. So you got the same thing back. So it doesn't care at the moment which type it is. I think you can tell it to listen to certain verbs as well.
Yeah.
I can't remember the correct line is, but you can always look at things like that on the Firebase docs. We're not going to talk too much. We're going to do a session, I think week after next, was it? We were doing a session on Firebase in more depth and going through all the Firebase features and probably look a bit more at functions, how you can trigger a function from a change to your database and things like that.
Yes, and it's got the Firebase ecosystem is very interesting in that, Andrew's right, that you can, if there's a change in the database, so someone passes, I don't know, if they update their profile and they've updated, I don't know, their picture, you can have a function trigger because of certain data changes, which is quite good, as well as having HTTP requests. There's a lot of things that you can do, and you also get real-time database out of the box. And what I mean by that is on your UI, be it a mobile app with React Native or Ionic, or web app with Angular, Vue, React, etc., then you can see the data change in real time as people make changes in their browser or wherever they're on their mobile device, wherever they are, which is pretty cool. Nathan says never hosted a database apart from something on Mongo Atlas. Andrew uses Mongo Atlas, but is now using Firebase a bit more.
I'm using Firebase a lot more. If you want to try going to that URL, hopefully you can open that in the browser.
I can.
I've just sent you a link on
There you go. So this is the function that we created. It's in Europe West.
By default, Node 8. You can change that in the package JSON to the Node 10. It's interesting that it's deprecated through their console, but by default, we've just done a fresh install of Firebase, and the default was still to use Node 8 when you created a new project. So maybe we should go and supply an update on their Git project to project to fix that.
And
but what you should have is what I was going to look at. We're doing a console log in there, which should show you all the data you sent in. So you should be able to see that post request and the data. It'll look a bit funny in here, though. It's not the best for logging.
Hello world, hello world, hello world, hello world. Which way am I going? Here we go. Here's the object.
Be towards the bottom, I think. You're going in
Oh
reverse time.
yes, it's that way. 509.
The last request you made was the post, wasn't it? That one.
Why has it not come through? Where's the hello world coming from? Oh, it's the function itself. It's the function name. Do I need to hit refresh? It says no new ones are in.
Quick look here.
And while you're doing that, I was going to say that the free usage on Firebase is like serverless. It is really, really impressive. Whereas Mongo Atlas is great, but it's quite expensive. And then you get when you're going from an external hosted to Mongo Atlas, if I remember correctly, Andrew had a lot of cold start issues, or not cold start, but like the connection time to connect. It's quite a few hundred sections on
Atlas
it.
is very slow, yeah. If you're using functions on, say, Lambda to go to Firebase, it's very slow.
Because it doesn't keep the pool of connections open. The function sleeps and it has to kind of reconnect again. So it's quite expensive in terms of time. But I do like Mongo and stuff. And Firebase isn't perfect. It does give you a lovely free tier to use. I mean, we've used it a lot and we still haven't been charged for it. You do get the database, real-time database, functions, storage, web hosting, machine learning, as you can see down the side, all out of the box for free. And you can get started very, very quickly because they have SDKs for so many languages. My pain point is when it comes to the automated testing, because it's not always, for the real-time database, it's not using JSON, it's using a proprietary kind of system. It's harder to mock out calls, say using Cypress in the browser to say, if you make this HTTP request, I'm expecting this result back and all the rest. So there are some challenges around that. So it's not a silver bullet, but for prototyping, hackathons, definitely worth using. Definitely.
I'm just putting an update through with an extra console login. I noticed that the index.ts file wasn't saved, so it might have been missing the other console log as well.
Got you. Okay, yes.
I had an additional console log, so you can just see where the logs come through.
Oh, but you have got a request. This is the request, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it's there.
It could be that one. It doesn't quite look right. I can't see your request object that you sent in.
Oh, good point. Does it have the body? Don't see it. Okay, how's the deployment going? Let's have a look. Let me close this. Don't need that anymore. Don't need that. Oh, almost there.
Yeah, if you bring up Postman.
Okay, deployment's finished. If I change something, because this is what we get back. So in the body, let me change something. So I'll just say, I don't know, body data sent as post. Okay, send. We got that back. That was what we've hard coded back, as you can see in the response. That's what we got back. It's great. And if we go to the console logs, it's come in 514. There we go. And more has come in. Here we go. You can see Andrew's put that in the code here. Incoming messages. That's not the one.
Yeah, I think that's the one. That would be the console log for the request. This is the slight downside to Firebase. Their logs run asynchronously to each line, so they don't always come through in the exact order necessarily.
You're right. That is the request.
So somewhere in there, you'll probably find the body. It probably is a buffer, though. You might not be able to read it.
Oh, yeah, true. I can always search for body, right? And if I'll label it as body. If there's a buffer. There is a buffer. So might not be able to.
Anyway, that's where you find the logs.
But that's there.
If you want, request does come through, you can parse the request, do some stuff with it, and then send a response. We'll dig more into it in a couple of weeks.
I've just put in, rather than the whole request object, because it's huge, I've put in request body. So that should be, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, should be what's coming in. just to have less information, because that's like huge stuff for me to read. Deployed, and then I think it'd be good to get some feedback from people, any questions, and then we'll let us know what future streams. You've got a stream in 2 weeks. Let us know what you'd like to see more on TypeScript in detail, or more in we've got Firebase in 2 weeks, but after then, let us know what you would like to see and what we can prepare for. So more in Firebase, more TypeScript, Angular. What else, Andrew?
We'll do
Sorry, say that again.
some stuff on setting up some tests as well. We haven't really spoken testing with TypeScript and Node.
Yeah, and with Cypress is awesome. We do like that. It's almost done. Come on. There we go. It's done. So so these have come in now. That has been deployed. And if I go to Postman and send it over, give it a second to come through.
You might need to press the little play button at the top, I think.
Oh. There we go. You can see the body. Here we go. And it does say info, body, data sent as post. And here we go, data sent as post. So it's making the HTTP request, and it's logging the body. Awesome.
Dead easy, right? That's an API built.
API built and deployed, right? A lot of people build stuff and they go, oh, I've built this awesome thing. It took me a whole weekend and I've built it. Oh, brilliant. Can I have a look? Where's it hosted? Yeah, I don't know how to host it. I don't know where to host it. Where can I host it? So it's, it's also about hosting a project. So I think that's really important. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, after the stream, don't forget to leave comments in the video if you want, and we will make sure we get back to you if you have any questions. And we do have a Slack channel. Check out our website, Code Mortals. We do have a Slack channel. You can see our mascot. The Slack channel, I will put that in the chat as well. There we go. Awesome. Andrew, anything else you'd like to add?
No, hopefully that was enjoyable. Hopefully you learned something. I know we learned a couple of things as we were going through that we remind ourselves of, let's say, but certainly a few things that I'd forgotten about, because it's not often you talk about these subjects. So nice to sit back and chat. I find that's the best way of reminding yourself of things. I was speaking to someone about, I can't remember what it was now. There was a subject we were speaking about, multi-threading, I think it was. I've not done much with multi-threading for a while. It's like I spent years doing loads of stuff with multi-threading. I can't remember any of it off the top of my head because I just don't speak about it very often. So yeah, really useful for us as well to talk about these things.
Reminder, absolutely. Yeah, it's really good to remind ourselves. And things change, right? As we saw, so there were things that changed. TS-lint had been deprecated. There were some other things that had slightly changed as well, like the TypeScript playground. So I think it's always good to have these conversations with people and see what's changed, and you can learn from each other. Vamsi, hey, it's not Friday. Yes, we came a day early just for you. I know you always say to arrive early, so we came a day early just for you. Actually, you're coming towards the end of the stream. We started like an hour and a half ago. We do not have a quiz night tomorrow, but the week after next, we do have a Firebase with functions, HTTP, REST, real-time database. We do have some of that stuff coming up.
I'm away next week, so unless Eddie decides to do some of these without me, it'll be the week after, yeah.
I need Andrew to do all the work, right? I just sit here and look pretty, so we'll wait for Andrew.
Usually thumbnail's all it is.
Say that again, sorry?
Got a thumbnail for the video from there. How was the thumbnail today?
I thought the thumbnail was awesome. I thought it was good. Really good. Nathan, remember things at the top of your head. You mean Google. But it's also knowing what to Google, I think. I think that's important. I don't think there's anything wrong with Googling. And you can see between Andrew and me, we have over 30 years experience, but we're still Googling stuff. But it's knowing what to Google for rather than Googling, how do I build something? Something really generic that won't get a good result. So I don't think there's anything wrong with Googling.
TS lint earlier because I'd forgotten which TS we're using. I used TS hyphen lint, which does exist, but is TS without the hyphen lint was the one I should be using. But it took me all of a 10-second Google to check that one. So Google is very powerful. It's even more powerful when you're used to using it and you know what you're looking for.
Exactly. Awesome. No, Mohammed, no stream tomorrow. Back in 2 weeks. We'll see you in 2 weeks, and it will be a Firebase. What we should do, Andrew, is do a Firebase.
Because Wednesday that week, so the Wednesday we'll be doing a quiz night. What date's that? Let me get the date for that.
We should swap those around. We should do Firebase deep dive and then do the quiz night afterward and have a round on Firebase.
We'll give people a week to play with it first. So we'll do Firebase the following week. So we've got quiz on the 19th in the evening, so 8 o'clock UK time. Apologies, I don't have times for everywhere in the world off the top of my head, but 8 p.m. UK on the 19th, we'll be doing a quiz, and that'll be our usual slot going forward, will be every Wednesday. And then on the 20th, so the day after, around the same sort of, no, hang on, sorry, we're doing the Friday, aren't we, the 21st?
Let me get my calendar up. Andrew's confusing me.
So, yeah, 19th for the quiz night, 21st for the Firebase session.
Yeah, so quiz night will be 8 p.m. UK time on Wednesday the 19th, and then the Firebase deep dive will be 4 o'clock on Friday the 21st. But we'll create live stream events for these on our channel, so do subscribe, and then you'll get notifications when these do go live.
Cool.
Awesome. Everyone, Mohammed will cheat again. Mohammed, you spot so many things. It's freaking unbelievable. I'm really impressed. You always spot
we've got 2 weeks
so many things.
So maybe I'll have to see if I can get that fixed in the next 2 weeks. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet this week.
Well, the one of the fixes is we knew about, but I kind of forgot about, which was the rules. I did a shortcut. It's my fault. I said, if you logged in, you can write to the database. And I said, we'll fix it later. And I never did that fix. So you're right. You can only write to your document rather than changing, looking at the answers and changing your user and other bits and pieces. So I do need to look into that and sort that out myself. But thank you for raising it and being so detailed. I think that's an example I'm going to use on my live streams to say, this is how you raise an issue, rather than people say, found a bug, it doesn't work. And I'm like, what doesn't work? Where's that? So it's, really detailed, really awesome. So thank you very much for raising all of those. I know you raised multiples. Okay, Andrew, should we say our byes?
Yes,
and we'll
goodbye.
See you all in 2 weeks. Hope you enjoyed today. Chat to you soon.